Yes, we're back and it's my grammar stories. Oh my, I'm so excited. You know, the last time I had this conversation on radio with Funke Treasure, Funke Treasure Daramala. One of our Duro oh man, Duro one of our seniors in the business, one of the trainers in Nigeria in broadcasting, and the first person that said to me, before you ask me to mentor you, I'm going to listen to you on phone first, and then I get to determine if you're worth my time or otherwise. So I don't waste time on them. You said so. We're having a conversation. We've got so many conversations on radio and TV that she doesn't remember. But we the students, we do remember.
When she's around, at times I just speak my Yoruba. No.
Authority la won kan, you know.
So when she's just there, I'm like, I want to pick my English.
You don't need to pick your English, just pick your English. You know what? That's a pen. She usually writes the words for you. She won't
English not
like immediately she sat beside me and she just said like a sentence. I'm like, okay.
Yes, it amazes me how someone could be so good with English language. So good. You need to hear her speak Yoruba.
What are you talking about? We're speaking Yoruba this morning.
She just drifts.
Let me just do my introduction. Let me do my introduction.
Okay, I rest my case.
It's my grammar stories this morning, and we're going back to some of the lessons from our past, some of the tales that our grammars did share with us that we are thrown away. But this woman put together a book that brought up Throwback Thursday, as a matter of fact. It inspired us doing Throwback Thursday on the Daily Report on Star FM 101.5, simply because we just wanted to share some of those stories, and people have not forgotten that episode.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of messages are still coming in. Why did you stop? Can you just come back? So we decided to bring it to TV. And good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, ladies. It made me feel like,
I can't believe she's a grandma.
No, I'm not. She's not. So I wanted to clear the air on that.
She's telling the stories of
our grandma.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some of us that weren't lucky to have our grandmas.
Honestly, it brings me, I've told her for the opting time that this our book is just paying me.
Why?
Because I never knew any of my grandmas.
No, I still knew like my paternal grandma, but
I didn't know
was
any
too
of
young,
them.
and then she also died early.
Can we listen to my guest now? Can you people just keep quiet and let me listen to my guest?
This is your guest. She's fun to be with. Okay, over to you.
Let my guest talk.
I hope people at home don't have this great expectation at the end of the day, because this hyper.
How's the family anyway?
We thank God.
And
as we say in Nigeria.
we're so grateful. Finally, the book is out,
Finally,
and
finally.
if the book is out, it means that there is so much that a lot of people can learn from here.
Absolutely.
First of all, let's talk about these stories and why they went into extinction in the traditional Nigerian society today.
Okay, by that time, I know that you mean the folk songs and the folk
And the
tales.
folk tales that our children cannot even understand what we're talking about.
Precisely. Two things. And it's because of that extinction threats that made me do a soundtrack to the song, to the book. I mean, you find soundtracks to movies, right? But never far in between, for books. So I did this so that when our children and the adults as well read this book, they can relive the experience by listening to the songs here. You said, why are they going extinct? Because we're all forming Abroadians. We're all making our children feel like it's not that cool to be connected to your roots. Indeed, we say we are Yoruba, we are Igbo, we are Hausa, we are Kanuri, Ibibi, and the rest of them, but we do not really care about socializing our children indeed into our culture and way of life. And the questions I ask people when I feature on interviews like this is, listen to me. Can your child name 5 vegetables in your indigenous language?
Please don't ask me.
Can your child
Please don't ask me that.
tell or say 5 proverbs in your language? Can your child tell the meaning of 5 indigenous names? Has your child ever been to the farm? Back in the days, a lot of our forefathers were farmers, hunters, blacksmiths. I think the trade, the blacksmith, is even extinct now, maybe.
Except when you go to the interior parts of
I don't think I
state
never
and-
even told my child anything about blacksmith.
Blacksmith exists.
I'm telling you.
I think,
Yeah.
she
I
hasn't
don't
seen
think
it.
I don't think we've even had a course to
Discuss.
go there.
And then again, I see that we're gradually beginning to lose some of the things that are authentic, used to be authentically ours. One of the things I also highlighted in that book is, and this is a pet peeve for me, is the fact that we're conflating Kembe and Nogudu. So we have a lot of these trousers, I'll call it Shokoto,
Look funny.
no, they don't look funny. They look like the letter N actually. But, you know, they're called Nogudu. While I was working on this book, I did a very quick research on Facebook, my Facebook page with my friends, and I said, can anybody tell me what Nogudu is?
You know, I heard that from you for the first time.
For the first time. But there is the Yoruba alphabet. Aja, Bibata, and so on. And then you go to Ni, Nogudu.
I've never heard that. I'm hearing it.
Honestly, even
No.
as my
Is that trouser we are wearing now, the one that extends further down like this and is
That
a
has
little, you know,
tail in the middle.
it's not like a tail.
so there's a name we
Like a
call
flap.
it. There's a name we call it.
In English.
Yeah, remind
With
me.
a longer
The
flap.
boot cut. Is it the
No,
boot
no,
cut?
no, with a
it's
longer
not really
flap. With a longer
I
flap.
should have worn it today, actually.
With
I
a
should have
long,
worn it today.
the one
because
with the
it's
longer flap in the
trending.
middle.
Quite a number of us are now saying they have a fashion label for Kembe. It's not Kembe. Kembe is big. It has Kembe doesn't taper narrowly to the end like what I'm wearing. It is like
Wide.
boot cuts that you're saying. That's but instead of it being, you know, slim at the middle, it's just, you know,
Okay.
lean
Oh,
all
okay.
the way. So that's Kembe. That's the one you find people wear with dashiki right back in the days.
That's what the urbans wear today.
Is it that one that Labaja, you know, in his days?
That is Nogudu.
My cameraman gave me the hint. I need to say that.
That one that
He gave me
Lagbaja
the
wears
hint.
is Nogudu.
The cameraman
The
just told
one
me
that
behind the
Konya
scene.
Folayon has a label for is Nogudu. It's not Kembe.
Oh, okay.
So you see, we run the risk of losing some of these terminologies and words and phrases in Yoruba language if we do not make a conscious effort to go back to our roots, to rekindle, to have a cultural renaissance, as they say. You know, otherwise our kids will wake up one day and they won't even know what is Taye and Kendi.
But what about the lessons? Are there lessons to be learned from some of the stories and some of these
sure.
books?
Sure, back in the days, our mothers, our grandmothers, and I met my great grandmother, Yale Oluji, and she was palm wine seller. And she sold like in wholesale. She was a very popular woman figure. I used to wonder why there used to be so many people around her. It was much later that I heard that she sold wholesale. And people came to buy palm wine from her and then resell and all of that. Detail from my grandmother, whose story was prominent in the book, was a trader. The point I'm making is it doesn't matter what your background is. What matters is how you're able to touch lives and how you're able to impact the people around you. I wish my grandmother was alive. She wouldn't have believed all the things going on in her name. Mama Felicia Oyinlola, she wrote it here. And there's a chapter on tattoo. in the book, because the way I wrote the book, it's in form of short stories.
Oh, okay.
Nevertheless, a thread runs through the book, so you see the beginning and the end of the story. But there's stories that you can take one after the other and read like a short story. So there is one on tattoo. And there I interrogated the idea of people not wanting to have tattoos these days. Back then, and in the olden days, tattoos were used to identify where you're from, whose daughter you were, who you were in love with. So you have Felicia and Lola, and I bothered her so much. I said, I want my name. Because if they captured me now, if Bomo Bomo takes me away, then they won't know my name, and then they won't know who to tell, to tell people whose daughter this is. So I gave them quite a bit of trouble that please I have to write my name too, until they brought out cashew. I say that's what you use. I mean, I can't even take injection. I don't want it.
But you know, on the contrary, today you
Yeah.
find out that things like tattoo. For me, for no reason would I want to opt for it or want to opt for it for my children or something. And generally in the society, we see it as someone that has a tattoo. Similarly,
because
in this part of the world,
it's religious. Because a lot of us say, no, it's in the Bible that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Don't forget that the Jews had their own culture and way of life. And you have to strike a balance. That's what I'm saying this morning. You have to strike a balance. Those who had tattoos back then, we don't know whether they went to hell.
Oh my God. Nobody knows.
We don't know whether they went to hell just because they put it. But I know that somewhere in the Bible there was this word that it is not what you put on that defiles you, it is what comes out of you. So how would the tattoo defile me? But you see, but that's one of the conversations in the book. It's one of the conversations. Then again, the issue of the folk songs, the stories they teach. There's a particular story there, Mojisola Alashofi. I think I called it A Thief in the Yard. And that story talks about you not taking what does not belong to you. In the folk tale, Mojisola was a very pretty girl. She had a mother who sold ashoke, which is also called Ofi. How many of our children know that it's called Ofi? It's just ashoke. Ashoke. They don't know whether it's Ofi Alari or Sonyo, or we're all just being colorful these days, So we need to be very careful. Mojisola used to go and steal vegetables, certain kind of vegetable from the pot, because it was so tasty. So very tasty. Mommy just knew how to make this particular vegetable. So she would go back home when everybody had gone and have a fill of that vegetable. So one day, and then when she was done, she would smear the mouth of the goat with the palm oil. So people would think it's the goats that messed up the pot of soup. So one day, excuse me, the mother had guests. So she took them home, and then she wanted to give them a cup and that vegetable. Behold, she got there, and it had been messed up again. Obviously, somebody had taken from it. So she picked a stick, because she saw palm oil in the mouth of the goats, and started to beat the goats. And the goats, out of pain and frustration, just started bleating. Mojisola fọwọ́ epo bà mí lẹ́nu. Ẹ máa gbọ́, ó ṣe bí ẹranko kì í sọ̀rọ̀.
ẹ máa gbọ́. ẹ máa gbọ́.
At first, you're like, what's going on here? Looks like this goat is. What is happening to the goat? Mojisola fọwọ́ epo bà mí lẹ́nu.
ẹ máa gbọ́.
Ó ṣe bí ẹranko kì í sọ̀rọ̀.
ẹ máa gbọ́. ẹ máa
So
gbọ́.
that's how Mojisola was found out. They found out that she was the one who had been stealing the goats. Of course, she was shamed for it. She was bitten. But her mom did something, taught her how to make the vegetable soup, and told her to never, ever take what is not hers anymore. So that's a story, and it teaches something. Don't steal. And you know, as children, you never forget that sort of thing. I can never take what is not mine. I will never.
You know, I
Even
like
your intellectual property.
I like the lessons that come out from it because I begin to enjoy. But you talked about striking a balance, and then you mentioned earlier about our children not not knowing much about the culture and everything. Because I remember that my parents allowed me watch some of these Yoruba movies just to understand the culture. But recently, I'll say no. I wouldn't allow my children watch Yoruba movies. Even the ones they show, like there's a particular one, African Magic Yoruba, like I wouldn't allow my children to watch it, and not necessarily because that's the thing. Because I feel like as much as they're trying to show our culture, there is so much, if I can use that word, negativity, and there's something it does to the mind, and I'm like, I wouldn't allow my children.
Thank you very much for that observation. You know, one of the things I want to do with this book is to let people see that old age is not, for a woman, does not make you a witch. That you have gray hair, and I do. Does that make me a witch?
Exactly.
How many times have we seen men being portrayed as wizards in movies? You'll never find a wizard in it. If you tell me a Nollywood movie where you had a wizard, I will give. Did I say I will personally go and meet the producer and give that producer an award. So you see this negative portrayal, it's all over the place. You see, there are stereotypes that people continually, throw in our faces, and as they do that, they become like a culture in its own. So it's not proper for you to say, you're not going to the village.
That's it.
Your village people will be after you. How? You mean that the city people don't have those kind of people? And we know the kind of people we say village people are.
No, but these are the things they portray.
So this is me while I was young, and I don't think going to the village has affected how I turned out in life. So I went to Dagbolu.
Because she's from a really good family.
That's not true. That's not true. You have all kinds of people in every family. So the fact that Mama lives in the village, and if we go to the village, we all die by next morning because they will be shocked and envious of our success and all of that. Who told you your neighbor is not envious of your success and cannot want to kill you in that city where you are? So really, we must strike a balance, and we must. Nollywood must take responsibility for the renewed socialization into our culture and way of life. When I was growing up, and I lived with grandma, one of the things she reinforced is the idea of not taking, and I'm purposely using my left hand because I want to talk about left hand. You don't give an elder something or anybody with your left hand in Yoruba land. I see these things happening nowadays. I'm like, no, it is not allowed in Yoruba culture. Yeah. You may be a left-handed person, a southpaw, and that's beautiful. I love southpaws; they're usually brilliant. But that is when you are writing. Certainly, you do not eat with your left hand, do you? No.
No, some of them do.
No, my son
even if you do,
but he gives everybody things with his right.
But you have to. It's the culture. You have to train your child, even if he's a south or she's a southpaw, that this is how you do it. You give people things with your right hand, and then you don't watch an elder go in front of you and like follow your leader. No, you take whatever she's holding, even if you're not related. You don't sit down and an elder is standing up. Where are you from? Mars? No, Mars people, communication. Mars people are okay. You must be from Saturn.
But just before we go this morning, I'd like you to just share one more song with us because
one more song. Okay, let me talk about the songs. We have a soundtrack album here. The full album will be out next year, but this is just 3 singles. Kent Oxygen performed the song Alumo for me. And a lady, super duper lady, I love her so much, Kayefi, did Eleliji for me. Eleliji is the story of a hunter who went into the forest and met with a very beautiful woman. I said, oh no, this woman, I must make her a wife. And then he went and got her to live with him. And one day it rained, a thunderstorm.
Try and wrap your thoughts.
Okay, a
Because we got to
thunderstorm.
go.
And then she decided to go back to the forest. She said, no, I can't stay here anymore. And as she went away, she did the song Ileliji. So I'm going to do the song for as long as, for as many of us who are broken-hearted.
Maybe tell me
Just
something.
as we are going to do that
with
song,
that
because we're
song.
doing that song as we begin to round off this morning. I guess there's been the way she wrote it, Anike Ade.
Anike Ade, old school.
Okay. Anike Ade. Okay.
But
Anike
I thought I
Funke
used to hear
Treasure.
Anike Ade from you. Don't
Wow.
Anike Ade, Funke Treasure, Duro Dollar has been our guest. Yinka Kenny, Amolola, it's been a very wonderful morning. I need to do that song so that we can go home with us.
with that song.
Okay, so the
exactly.
song is, you say, Eleliji fe, Eliji fe, kun fe, Eliji, Eleliji fe,
Eliji fe, kun fe, Eliji.
Eleliji fe,
Eliji fe, kun fe, Eliji.
Eleliji fe.
Eliji fe, kun fe, Eliji.
Ages reign.
talent kó wá bá Àdìgún ọmọjọmọlọ tírin bá kọrin ìpàtẹ fún kan talent kó wá bá Àdìgún ọmọjọmọlọ tírin bá kọrin ìpàtẹ fún kan. Ìṣe market different paro ẹ̀rù lọ́jà bó ṣe pọ̀ tó. Ìṣe market different paro ẹ̀rù lọ́jà bó ṣe pọ̀ tó. Bashiri, make a fee go London 100 times in a year. Bashiri, make a fee follow Rihanna, one value. Bashiri, take it calculate my money. Bashiri, take it machine calculate my money. Bashiri, take my fee Bugatti fish serio. Bashiri, take my fee Lamborghini fish serio. Alright. It's okay, now I realize say time no day. Alright, it's okay, Papa me okay, do your grace. Alright, it's okay, now I realize say time no day. Alright, is okay. Bàbá mi lókè, she gòkè. Bàṣírí mi, gbogbo sàdákà tí mo yàn jẹ́ kó wọ àlùjọ náà. Bàṣírí mi, gbogbo náfìlà tí mo yàn jẹ́ kó di ìbádà. Bàṣírí mi, gbogbo àwẹ̀ tí mo gbà jẹ́ kó di ìtẹ́wọ́gbà. So tell all my family no go fit do without me.